Hi, today I want to talk a little bit about Hotdish, mostly to preserve some of the ideas of a project that we did quite a while ago. We worked on it for about 2.5 months. It's an add-on to Firefox. It's an extension of the work from Together.js, also kind of used Together.js to hack together some of this stuff, as well as another project called Browser Mirror from before. It's was done by myself, Aaron Druck, who is now with Google, and Greg Lind. Um, and as a product, we really developed it to experiment with the interface more than the engineering. But we did build something, and I think there's some interesting parts to it. We were going to make a screencast, and we never really put it together, but we did. I do have at least one side of the recording that was going to provide the source material for a screencast. So I'll play through it and talk about some of what we did with Hotdish and what made some of it cool and what made some of it, well, it's all cool. But as you see, when you start Hotdish, we started with an invite link, and the invite link, I'll rewind briefly to show that. So there's an invite link here. This is actually kind of an arbitrary location, uh, but whenever the add-on sees a link in this form, it starts up a special collaborative window with Hotdish activated and with all the people who are in. Essentially, that's a room, that group number there. Now there's a sidebar. The sidebar is persistent. You can't get rid of it, and that's to help remind you that you are in a session, and everything you do in this session is public to all the other people in the session. So as you can see, each of us has an avatar. It'd be even cooler if that was a video, but that was much more challenging and not what we were trying to experiment with in this particular thing. And you know, you can have multiple people part of the session. On the So on the top you see who's part of the session. There are some controls immediately beneath that I'll talk about later, and then there's what's kind of an activity log. So it includes chat messages, but it also includes all the kind of pages people have open. So the idea is everything that you do in this window is public with everyone else in this window. So if you don't want to do something public, you don't use this window. So in this example, we are going to kind of book a trip together. So as I open the page, Aaron here can see that I've opened the page, and again we reflect that back to ourselves. There's a little location badge. If you look at the second row down here under vacation rentals, that shows that is my active tab. So that's what I'm actually looking at. And then it also shows anyone else who's on that page. So in that case, it shows Aaron. The same page is duplicated a little bit further down, and it shows that I am also on that page, right? So it shows all the active tabs that people are on, and it also shows where attention is currently going. So you'll see also there's Aaron's avatar shows up on the side of this page, indicating that we're both on the same page here. Well, you can't see what Aaron's doing right now. We're kind of in co-browsing mode, so we're both at the same URL, and because of the fact we're at the same URL, we see each other and we can see each other's mice, cursors moving around. We each potentially have our own login state. We're not like fully synchronized. We just happen to be at the same location. We have form sync here. I would say that form sync, in this particular case, the date picker is too advanced, and some of these other things are too advanced to fully show what's going on. But I would say that the form synchronization was unsuccessful and unhelpful. So it's very interesting to see what another person is typing and to see that the fact that they are typing and interacting with something, actually reflecting that in the form on your page is not as useful. It's confusing if you both try to interact with forms at the same time. Frequently, you might end up at the same place and actually want to do different things, and that's okay. And this general kind of ambient, like I get to see where that Aaron is on the same page and that he is doing things on this page. That doesn't necessarily interrupt the two people doing different things on the same page. So one that we hit often was we would use this for bug triage, and it was really great for that. But we would open a new comment, and our comments would be synced. And it was great to see that the other person or open a new issue. And it was great to see that the other person had opened a new issue, and it was great to see what they were typing, right? Because at that point we could say, "Oh, here's a problem," and without even having to say anything, you can say, "Oh, Aaron's opened up a ticket and he's writing this down. I don't have to write this down. It's going to be recorded." But it's totally unhelpful if we both actually want to write comments at the same time. Also, cross cross origin, was it cross site scripting, request forgery, things tended to get in the way and break things. GitHub particularly uses a lot of security mechanisms to make this hard. But let's see here. We do see this now. What happened there is I clicked view. So when I clicked view, instead of going into kind of just co-browsing mode, I'm now in viewing mode. So the idea again is not only can I see everything you're doing, I can also invite myself in on exactly what you're doing and see what's going on. So let's open up a new page. We kind of styled it purple, that was a little crude, to try to show that. So if you look at the URL here, it's a resource URL. It's just a kind of a blank URL that we end up writing over it. We're using the same. This uses a combination of both Together.js to do some of the co-browsing stuff that we typically do, as well as it also uses browser mirror. So what's actually happening here is that Aaron is loading this page and interacting with it, and his browser then is taking regular snapshots of the DOM and sending them over to me, and I'm re-rendering them locally. Additionally, he may be, it sends diffs so that you get incremental updates. So this is a page that technically I could in some sense interact with. We disabled all the interaction. We experimented with different ways you might be able to interact with the presentation, but for the most part, presentation mode is something that, which is what we call it, presentation mode, is something that's just not very useful to be able to interact with. There's security issues, but it's also just it's confusing, and it's actually, and all events have to actually be done locally, right? So they have to be done at this location. As you see, it presentation mode follows Aaron around as he goes to different pages, so it's not a page specific thing. I'm following his tab really in this case. So we have, and as you can see, there's a viewing icon over here that says that I'm currently in viewing mode. One of the ideas we had, which I was quite happy with, is the idea that in this window, we're in a space where we trust each other to act politely with each other. So I can invite myself to somebody else's room. I can also tell someone to look at what I'm looking at, or tell someone to open a page that I want to open. So, if I where it said viewing, and I'm not sure if I'll do this later, but I can also hit presentation mode, which will, in this case on Aaron's browser, would immediately open a new tab that would be presenting what I am showing him, right? So I take over, a new tab suddenly opens, and he's going to be looking at something. And in fact, I've done that, and you can see I'm presenting this Yelp page here because it is green. So he will see everything that I see. We can also, it has an interface simply to push a page to somebody else. And when you push a page to somebody else, so here I've encountered a problem. I want to interact with the page, but I can't. And though the interface did not seem to update properly, what actually happened here, if I rewind a little bit, so I can't interact with it at this point. I decided I really want to interact with it, so I stopped viewing mode, and now it just load the URL over top of that. So now we're no longer viewing, or he's no longer presenting, I'm no longer viewing, and I'm able to interact with the page again. So being able to jump out of that mode, I think, was pretty successful, and there's lots of kind of places where you might want to be able to launch someone into an experience, show them something, give them an idea what they want to do, and then they want to jump out of that mode and then interact with the site on their own. To the degree that the URLs, identify a resource that you can continue on, that works pretty well. Obviously, if it required a login and I wasn't logged in, and the login form didn't continue things very well, then that wouldn't have worked. So throughout the rest of this, we do pretty much the same things. I'll just point out a couple other things. So in addition to presenting to someone, you can also just push a tab to somebody else. This forces everyone else to open the same tab. So if you want to say, like, I want you all to see this, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page, in a meeting, that would be common. That is a good way to do that. And yeah, and then there's the activity stream, which is really a dynamic view that's roughly sorted according to date, but roughly. We had it as kind of an explicit, like things kept getting added to it. That was not successful. There was too much going on in that. Too much stuff would go by. You'd see too many pages, right? So we only show open pages currently in the activity log, ordered by how recently you visited them, but also trying to keep your active tab above the fold. And while we have some duplicated ones, which we never got around to deleting, but showing combined presence, like everyone is here, was important. The part that I thought was actually really good was this ambient sense of what people were doing. While in this particular example, we showed a very intense planning thing where we're both very actively looking at things and trying to come to decisions and finalize them and book them. That is something you only do briefly. But what I think might be more interesting is, how do we see what each other are doing, right? Like, what's the moment leading up to the point when you enter what I call this active collaboration around something, and how can we facilitate people knowing that it's the right time to do that, and knowing that it's time, you know. So something like the fact that when we are serendipitously on the same page, that we see that, gives us a sense that we're both doing the same thing, and therefore it's a good idea, for us maybe to interact more closely, or to potentially start a voice conversation or something. At the same time, the activity log, I think, that's that again, the sidebar beneath the faces, was still too complicated, and I think it would be better if we had moved it off into a different tab or some different interface that might open up, and then had an even briefer, more impactful set of stuff in the log, so that you can more easily kind of refer to it. So that's Hotdish. That's what we were working on, and yeah, I hope you find it interesting.